The following broadcast is a fictional audio drama created for entertainment purposes. Good morning, Ceres. You're listening to Inner System Public Radio, Relay 9, broadcasting from Port Dong, where the local time is 0538 Ceres Standard. This is John Vale with your early cycle update for miners, dock crews, haulers, pressure techs, med staff, sleepless parents, and everyone else awake before the habitat lights finish pretending it's morning. If you are just joining us, Dock 2 is moving slowly after a guidance fault on the Vesta line. Dock 4 remains closed for pressure seal maintenance. The 0610 shuttle to Blue Concourse is currently delayed 12 minutes, though station control says that number may change as morning traffic builds. Radiation levels remain normal. Surface work is cleared through 0900. Exterior crews are reminded that sunrise glare over the eastern ridge may interfere with older visor filters, so check tint calibration before stepping out. Water rationing remains unchanged from yesterday. Residential districts are still operating under Level 2 conservation, which means gray water reclamation is mandatory for commercial kitchens and laundry facilities. I know, nobody likes hearing that before breakfast, but those are the rules this cycle. We are also following a developing labor situation near Sector 12 this morning. Details remain limited, but workers assigned to Hargreaves Deep Shaft have reportedly refused to descend following what Asterian Extraction Group is calling an overnight structural incident. That is the company's phrase. An overnight structural incident. We do not yet have a confirmed injury count. We do not yet have confirmation that all personnel are accounted for. Asterian says there is no danger to the general public. The Ceres Provisional Authority says access to Sector 12 is temporarily restricted while company engineers complete an assessment. We will continue monitoring that situation as updates come in. For now, you are listening to Inner System Public Radio Relay 9. Stay with us. It is now 0546 Ceres Standard, and we have a brief update on the situation at Sector 12. The Ceres Provisional Authority has issued a short advisory asking all non-essential personnel to avoid transit corridors leading to Hargreaves Deep Shaft. Shuttles along the red industrial line are bypassing the Sector 12 platform. If you work in that area and have not received a direct assignment notice, you are being asked to remain in your housing block or report to your surface supervisor through the standard channel. Asterian Extraction Group says a localized rock shift occurred during third shift operations. Again, that is their wording, localized rock shift. However, worker channels are using different language. We are seeing repeated references to a collapse below level 9. At this time, we cannot confirm the scale of that collapse. We can confirm that Hargreaves Deep Shaft is one of the older active shafts on Ceres. It runs beneath the southern ice line and feeds into several mixed ore and ice extraction galleries. Many of those galleries were opened more than 30 years ago during the first expansion of the Port Dong industrial grid. That does not automatically mean the site is unsafe. Older shafts are inspected, reinforced, and reclassified all the time. But Hargreaves has been the subject of complaints from deep crew workers before. Last month, maintenance crews filed a pressure door fault report related to emergency shelter seals in sublevel 8. 2 weeks before that, a transport operator reported abnormal vibration along the East Bore tram line. Those reports are public record. We are not speculating. We are simply noting that the site has had documented concerns. Asterian says all active operations at Hargreaves are paused while the company completes its internal safety check. The work stoppage, meanwhile, appears to be growing. According to 3 separate worker band relays, miners from shaft crews 8, 9, and 12 are gathered outside the Sector 12 access gate and are refusing to return underground until Asterion releases a full accounting of the overnight incident. We are hearing a phrase repeated across those channels. No air, no ore. Again, that phrase appears to be coming from the workers gathered near Sector 12. No air, no ore. We will continue following this. You're listening to Inner System Public Radio, Relay 9. The time is now 0602 Ceres Standard. We have received Asterian Extraction Group's first official statement regarding the work stoppage at Hargreaves Deep Shaft. I'm going to read the statement in full. Asterian Extraction Group confirms that a localized geological disturbance occurred during routine third-shift activity in Hargreaves Deep Shaft. Immediate containment measures were initiated, and emergency response personnel were dispatched according to established safety procedures. At this time, there is no threat to the general population of Ceres, no threat to surface infrastructure, and no threat to orbital shipping assets. We ask all employees to avoid spreading unverified claims and return to assigned posts as directed. Unauthorized work stoppages during an active extraction window may place fellow workers, residents, and commercial partners at risk. That is the full statement. A few things should be made clear. Asterian has not provided an injury count. Asterian has not confirmed whether all personnel are accounted for. Asterian has not specified what it means by a localized geological disturbance, and Asterian has not answered whether emergency shelters below level 9 were functioning at the time of the incident. We have submitted those questions to the company's public communications office. We have not yet received a response. The Ceres Provisional Authority has released a shorter statement saying it is aware of labor disruptions near Sector 12 and is working with industrial partners to maintain order, safety, and continuity of essential services. That phrase, essential services, matters here. Ceres is not like Earth, and I do not say that as poetry. I mean it as infrastructure. A work stoppage on Earth can slow a factory, close a port, or delay a shipment. A work stoppage here can affect heat, air, water processing, transit, docking, fuel mass, med supply routing, and pressure maintenance. Ceres survives because thousands of people do thousands of difficult jobs in the correct order every day. The miners cut the ice, the processors refine it, the haulers move it, the dock crews load it, the fuel plants crack it, the maintenance crews keep the tunnels sealed, the pressure techs keep the air in the rooms where our children sleep. So when a group of miners refuses to descend, that is not just a labor story. It is a public safety story. It is an economic story. It is a political story. And depending on what happened below Hargreaves Level 9 last night, it may become something else before this day is over. We will stay with it. At 0619, Ceres Standard, this is what we can confirm. The red industrial line remains closed between Blue Concourse and Sector 12. Asterian security personnel are positioned at Lock 9 and the Western Maintenance Corridor. A crowd has formed outside the Sector 12 access gate. We do not have an exact number, but station observers describe it as several hundred people, including miners, transport workers, family members, and off-duty maintenance staff. There are signs being held near the gate. The ones visible on public corridor cameras read, "Release the names," "Open Level 9," "Test the shelters," and again, the phrase we have heard since early this morning, "No air, no ore." We have now received a statement attributed to the Ceres Workers' Assembly. The Assembly is not formally recognized by Asterian Extraction Group as a negotiating body, but it has represented deep shaft crews in previous contract petitions and safety complaints. I'm going to read that statement now. We, the workers of Hargreaves Deep Shaft and the surrounding extraction sectors, refuse to return below the surface until the missing are accounted for, until independent inspectors are allowed below Level 9, and until every emergency shelter in Sector 12 is tested under public supervision. We will maintain emergency oxygen, medical, heat, and civilian pressure systems. We will not endanger the people of Ceres, but we will not dig our own graves to meet an Earth shipment quota. That statement ends with 3 words: no air, no ore. That is the first direct statement we have received from the workers. Asterian Extraction Group has not responded to it. It is now 0637 Ceres Standard. For listeners joining from Mars orbit, Luna, or inner belt relays, we are covering a developing labor strike on Ceres following an overnight incident at Hargreaves Deep Shaft. Asterian Extraction Group has described the incident as a localized geological disturbance. Workers at the site are calling it a collapse. We cannot yet independently verify the scale of the damage. We can report that the strike appears to have expanded beyond Hargreaves. Ore lift operators at Sector 12 have stopped loading raw material to the Port Dawn freight line. 2 cargo crews assigned to the morning launch window have delayed departure. Ice processors at Vault 2 are reportedly operating at emergency minimum only, meaning civilian systems remain supported, but commercial output is paused. That distinction is important. The workers are saying they will continue staffing life support, heat grid, medical access, and emergency response systems. They are not, at least according to their statement, attempting to cut civilians off from air or water. Asterian's position is that any disruption inside the extraction chain risks destabilizing the colony's larger supply system. Both things can be true. The workers may be trying to protect essential services. The company may still be correct that extended disruption creates risk. But the central question right now remains the same. What happened inside Hargreaves Deep Shaft? And why, more than an hour after the first company statement, do we still not know how many people were inside? At 0652, we have another update. Asterian has confirmed that medical personnel responded to Hargreaves Deep Shaft during third shift. The company now says there were injuries, but it has not provided a number. That is a change from the first statement, which did not mention injuries at all. The new company statement reads, "A limited number of personnel sustained injuries during the Hargreaves disturbance and are receiving care through Asterian Medical Services. Reports of mass casualty conditions are inaccurate and irresponsible. We continue to urge employees to return to work and allow trained specialists to complete their assessment without interference." Again, that is Asterian's statement. We have not received independent confirmation. Worker channels are claiming the number of missing is much higher than the company has acknowledged. I want to be careful here. We are receiving names. We are not reading names until they are confirmed. We are receiving family messages. We are not sharing those messages until families have been notified through proper channels. There is pain in this story already. We do not need to add confusion to it. What we can say is this: the crowd outside Sector 12 has grown. The chants are louder. And according to a public corridor camera near Lock 9, Asterian security has formed a barrier between the access gate and the worker housing corridor. We have no reports of violence. We have no reports of arrests. But the situation is tense. If you are in the Sector 12 area, avoid the access gate unless you have essential business there. If you are waiting for someone assigned to Hargreaves Deep Shaft, check the Family Information Channel provided by the Ceres Provisional Authority. We will repeat that channel code at the bottom of the hour. This is Inter-System Public Radio, Relay 9. I am John Vale, and we are staying on this story. The time is now 7:11 Ceres Standard. For those who are not familiar with the role Ceres plays in the Inter-System, it may be useful to explain why this strike is drawing attention beyond Port Dawn. Ceres is not the largest settlement beyond Earth. It is not the richest. It is not the most independent. But Ceres sits at the center of something every ship needs: water. Water becomes air. Water becomes fuel mass. Water becomes radiation shielding. Water becomes heat exchange. Water becomes agriculture. Water becomes everything. The ice under Ceres is not just local industry. It is part of the circulatory system of the inner planets. It supports cargo routes between Earth, Mars, Luna, Vesta, and the outer survey stations. Every day, shipments leave Port Dawn carrying refined water, oxygen tanks, hydrogen fuel, metal concentrates, and construction mass. If those shipments slow for a day, companies lose money. If they stop for a week, ships reroute. If they stop for longer than that, people start making emergency plans. That is why a strike on Ceres is never only a strike on Ceres. And that is why Asterian Extraction Group is under pressure to end this quickly. The company holds the primary extraction charter for Hargreaves, Sector 12, and several surrounding ice galleries. It also manages a significant portion of worker housing, medical access, and supply credits through employment contracts. That is another reason this is complicated. Many of the people striking against Asterion live in Asterion-managed housing. Many receive medical care through Asterion clinics. Many buy food through Asterion-linked accounts. When the company says workers should return to duty, it is not just an employer asking employees to work. It is the landlord, the clinic, the payroll office, and the air systems contractor speaking at the same time. That is the reality of life in a company sector. And that reality is now being tested in public. At 7:28, we have confirmation that the strike has spread to Dock 3. A spokesperson for the Dock Handlers Cooperative says its members will not load Asterion cargo until the company releases a complete list of workers present inside Hargreaves Deep Shaft at the time of the incident. Dock 3 handles mixed ore containers and processed ice loads bound for Mars transfer routes. Non-Asterion cargo is still moving, but delays are expected. Again, civilian supply shipments are not affected at this time. The Dock Handlers Cooperative says emergency medical, food, and oxygen shipments will continue moving. The Ceres Provisional Authority has acknowledged the delay and says it is monitoring supply continuity. Asterion has not responded to the dock workers' announcement. At 0741, there are reports of a brief confrontation near Lock 9. Public camera views are partially obstructed, and the official feed has switched angles twice in the past 10 minutes. We cannot describe what we cannot see. What we can verify is that access to the Sector 12 gate is now blocked by security personnel in gray pressure armor. Workers remain gathered on the opposite side of the corridor. The crowd is not dispersing. The chant remains the same. No air, no ore. I want to pause on that phrase for a moment. No air, no ore. It sounds simple because it is. It means the workers are tying production to survival. They are saying that extraction should not continue unless the systems that keep them alive are functioning. They are saying that ore should not leave the ground if workers are not guaranteed air below it. There are slogans that are made for drama. This one sounds like it was made by people who spend their lives listening for leaks. At 0803 Ceres Standard, the Ceres Provisional Authority has issued a public safety advisory. Residents in habitat rings 3 through 6 may experience reduced non-essential power usage over the next 2 hours. Lighting in public corridors may be dimmed. Recreational water access is suspended. Heat levels in non-residential areas may be reduced slightly to conserve grid load. The authority says these measures are precautionary. They are not, repeat, not announcing an oxygen shortage. They are not announcing a pressure emergency. They are asking residents to reduce power and water usage while the industrial grid adjusts to the work stoppage. If you are in a residential block, keep your pressure mask charged and accessible as always. There is no instruction to shelter in place at this time. Schools remain open, though parents in sectors 10 through 13 should check local channels for early dismissal notices. The Workers' Assembly has responded to the advisory, saying its members remain on duty at civilian life support stations and that Asterion is, quote, using conservation alerts to frighten residents. Asterion has denied that accusation. We are now in a familiar pattern. The company says the strike is creating danger. The workers say the company created the danger long before the strike began. And somewhere below level 9, a damaged shaft may still hold the answer. At 0826, Asterion has requested emergency mediation through the Ceres Provisional Authority. That is a significant development. Until now, Asterion has referred to the work stoppage as unauthorized and has not publicly acknowledged the Ceres Workers' Assembly as a legitimate negotiating body. A request for mediation does not mean recognition, but it does mean the company understands this is no longer a small crew refusing an assignment. The authority says representatives from Asterion, the Workers' Assembly, the Dock Handlers Cooperative, and independent safety observers have been invited to a closed meeting at Civic Chamber 2. The Workers' Assembly has not yet confirmed whether it will attend. Its conditions, repeated this morning, remain the same. Release the names, open Level 9, test the shelters, withdraw security from Sector 12, no punishment for striking workers. Asterion has not publicly accepted those terms. At 8:44, we are receiving new information about the workers believed to have been inside Hargreaves at the time of the incident. Asterion has now confirmed that 46 personnel were assigned to active duty in the affected sublevels during third shift. The company says 31 have been accounted for. That leaves 15 not publicly accounted for. The company has not used the word missing. It says, and I quote, "Status verification remains ongoing." The Workers' Assembly says the number is higher. They claim additional contractors, transport staff, and maintenance personnel were present below Level 9, but not included in the active duty count. We cannot verify that claim. But we can say that Asterion's number has changed. This morning, there was no injury count. Then there were limited injuries. Now there are 46 assigned personnel, 31 accounted for, and 15 under status verification. That is the clearest official number we have received so far. Families waiting near Sector 12 are asking for names. They have not received them. At 09:02, the Workers' Assembly has agreed to mediation. The Assembly's interim spokesperson, Mara Venn, released a brief message through the worker band. I will read it now. "We will enter talks because families deserve answers and because the living still need air. We will not return below the surface while Hargreaves remains sealed. We will not accept an internal review conducted by the same company that sent our people into a failing shaft. Emergency crews remain at civilian posts. No resident will lose air because miners demanded the truth." That was Mara Venn, speaking for the Ceres Workers' Assembly. Some background on Venn, because her name is likely to come up again today. Mara Venn is a second-generation Ceres miner. She has worked in deep shaft extraction for 11 years. She was one of the signers of last month's safety petition regarding emergency shelter seals. According to worker channels, her younger brother was assigned to Hargreaves Deep Shaft during third shift. We do not know his status. We are not reporting his name. But that fact may explain why her voice is carrying so much weight among the workers gathered at Sector 12. At 09:31, talks have begun at Civic Chamber 2. The authority has requested that all parties avoid public statements while mediation is ongoing. That request, of course, has not stopped information from moving. Workers remain outside Sector 12. Dock 3 remains partially halted. Ore lifts at Sector 12 remain offline. Ice processing remains at emergency minimum. Port Dawn shipping delays now average 3 hours for Asterion cargo. Non-Asterion cargo is moving, though slower than normal due to rerouting. Mars transfer coordinators have issued a commercial delay notice. Luna shipping offices are asking haulers to confirm fuel reserves before departure. This is now affecting traffic beyond Ceres. Again, we are not in a system emergency, but the system is paying attention. At 09:48, we have received a correction from Asterion Extraction Group. Earlier, the company stated that 31 of 46 personnel had been accounted for. The company now says 32 have been accounted for. 14 remain under status verification. The company also says rescue access below Level 9 is delayed due to unstable pressure conditions and continuing geological risk. The Workers' Assembly disputes that explanation. They claim rescue crews have been staged and ready for more than 3 hours, but have not been allowed through the lower pressure doors because Asterion has not approved independent entry. We cannot verify either claim, but we can confirm that rescue crews are present near Sector 12. We can confirm that the lower levels remain sealed, and we can confirm that families outside the gate are still waiting. At 10:15, a new development. The Belt Safety Commission has offered to send independent inspectors from Vesta and Luna. The commission says a rapid inspection team can arrive within 16 hours if granted priority docking and access clearance. Asterion has not yet accepted. The Workers' Assembly says independent inspection is non-negotiable. For listeners asking whether 16 hours is fast, the answer is yes, very fast. That would require priority burn, emergency routing, and direct docking clearance. It is the kind of response usually reserved for pressure disasters, industrial contamination, or mass casualty events. The fact that the offer has been made tells us something. It tells us the outside system no longer sees this as a routine labor dispute. At 10:39, we have our first response from Mars. The Tharsis Cargo Union has issued a statement saying its members will not handle rerouted Asterion freight if the company uses replacement crews to break the strike. I will read part of that statement. Ceres workers maintain the routes that keep Mars supplied. If Asterion believes miners can be buried, ignored, and replaced while cargo continues moving as usual, Asterion has misunderstood who moves cargo. That statement is already circulating widely on public labor bans. Asterion has called outside involvement unhelpful. The Ceres Provisional Authority has asked off-world organizations not to interfere with active mediation, but the pressure on Asterion is increasing. At 11:02, we have reports that Asterion security has pulled back approximately 20 meters from the Sector 12 access gate. This is not a full withdrawal, but it is the first visible de-escalation we have seen today. The crowd remains in place. The chants have stopped for the moment. Observers say families are gathered near the front of the corridor, holding photos, helmet tags, and work badges. The authority says a family notification center is being established near Blue Concourse Medical Annex. If you are waiting for information about a worker assigned to Hargreaves Deep Shaft, go to Blue Concourse Medical Annex, Level 2, Hall C. Bring identification if you have it. If you do not have it, staff have been instructed to assist you anyway. I will repeat that. Blue Concourse, Medical Annex, Level 2, Hall C. At 11:27, we have a troubling update. Station editors have received what appears to be an internal Asterion inspection memo dated 9 days ago. We are still working to verify the document. I am not going to read the full memo yet, but I can tell you what it appears to concern. Hargreaves Deep Shaft, emergency shelter seals, pressure door response delays, and structural fatigue in the east bore below level 9. If verified, this memo would indicate that some of the same systems being discussed today were flagged before last night's incident. We have sent the document to Asterion for comment. We have also sent it to 2 independent safety engineers for review. We will not treat it as confirmed until we have more verification. But because the content of the memo relates directly to public safety, we are telling you that we have received it. At 11:56, one of the independent engineers we contacted has responded. They cannot verify the origin of the memo. They can, however, confirm that the terminology, formatting, and classification codes appear consistent with Asterion internal safety documents. A second reviewer has not yet responded. Asterion has not responded. The memo describes the east bore support ribs as operating outside recommended stress margins. It describes Shelter 9C as having incomplete pressure integrity under emergency cycle testing. It describes a delay in replacement parts due to production scheduling. I am going to repeat that carefully. A document that appears consistent with Asterion internal safety formatting describes an emergency shelter below Hargreaves Level 9 as having incomplete pressure integrity under emergency cycle testing. That does not prove the shelter failed last night. That does not prove the company caused the collapse, but it raises serious questions about whether known hazards existed before workers were sent underground. We are waiting for further confirmation. At 12:10, Asterion has responded. The company says it does not comment on leaked or stolen internal materials. It adds that all operations at Hargreaves Deep Shaft were conducted in accordance with applicable safety standards. That is the full response. It does not say whether the memo is real. It does not say whether Shelter 9C failed inspection. It does not say whether the east bore was flagged for structural fatigue. It says the company does not comment on leaked or stolen internal materials. Talks at Civic Chamber 2 are continuing. The Workers' Assembly has issued no new statement. The time is 12:32 Ceres Standard. We are now 6 hours into this strike. Let's summarize what we know. An overnight incident occurred at Hargreaves Deep Shaft below level 9. Asterion first described it as a localized geological disturbance. Workers called it a collapse. Asterion now confirms that 46 personnel were assigned to affected sublevels and that 14 remain under status verification. The Ceres Workers' Assembly refuses to return underground until names are released, Level 9 is open to rescue crews, independent inspectors are allowed in, and emergency shelters are tested publicly. The strike has spread to ore lifts, Dock 3, and parts of ice processing, though workers say they are maintaining civilian life support systems. Asterion claims the stoppage risks public safety. The Workers' Assembly claims Asterion is using public safety to pressure workers back underground. Mediation is underway. Mars cargo unions have threatened to refuse Asterion freight if replacement labor is used. And a leaked inspection memo appears to show known safety concerns at Hargreaves before last night's incident. That is where things stand. If you are just joining us, you are listening to Inter-System Public Radio, Relay 9. I am John Vale. We will stay on air. At 13:05, we have new information from Civic Chamber 2. The Ceres Provisional Authority says mediation has entered a recess after what it calls substantial disagreement over inspection access. That means the talks have not collapsed, but they have not resolved the core issue. Asterion is reportedly willing to allow an internal company rescue team below Level 9. The Workers' Assembly is demanding independent observers accompany any entry team. The authority is proposing a mixed team. The dispute is not just about who goes below, it is about who gets to describe what they find. That may sound cynical, but it is the reality here. If Asterion goes in alone, the company controls the first report. If independent inspectors go in, the company loses that control. If rescue is delayed while both sides argue, families wait longer. Every option has a cost. At 13:28, the crowd outside Sector 12 is chanting again. The phrase has changed. Earlier, it was no air, no ore. Now, according to corridor audio monitors and multiple public feeds, they are chanting, open the shaft, open the shaft, open the shaft. This comes after rumors that rescue teams are ready but still waiting for final entry approval. Again, we cannot verify that those teams could safely enter right now, but the crowd believes they can, and belief in a sealed colony moves quickly. At 13:47, the Ceres Provisional Authority has announced that schools in sectors 10 through 13 will dismiss early. Parents and guardians should check local education channels for pickup schedules. Children will not be routed through Sector 12 transit. Habitat conservation protocols remain in place for rings 3 through 6. The authority says pressure grids are stable. Medical facilities remain open. There is no shelter-in-place order. I want to emphasize that. There is no shelter-in-place order. Rumors are circulating that residential oxygen will be cut in worker housing. We have no evidence of that. The authority denies it. Asterion denies it. The Workers' Assembly says its emergency crews would not allow that to happen. Keep your masks charged. Keep your household supplies organized, but do not panic. At 14:12, we have confirmation from Luna. The Lunar Dock Workers Federation has joined Mars in warning Asterion against the use of replacement crews. The Federation says any Asterion cargo loaded by replacement labor on Ceres will be subject to refusal at lunar ports. That does not shut down Asterion by itself, but it limits the company's options. Asterion cannot easily move ore if dock crews on Ceres refuse to load it, Mars refuses to handle rerouted freight, and Luna threatens to reject replacement cargo. The strike is no longer contained within Hargreaves. It is now moving through the supply chain. At 14:35, there is movement at Civic Chamber 2. Mara Venn has exited the mediation room. Asterion representatives remain inside. The authority has not issued a formal statement, but worker channels are reporting that the Assembly rejected Asterion's latest offer. The alleged offer included a company-led review, limited hazard pay adjustments, and a promise not to discipline workers who return to duty within 6 hours. The Workers' Assembly reportedly rejected that because it did not include independent inspection, public shelter testing, or full amnesty. Again, this is coming from worker channels, not official mediation records, but it matches what the Assembly has been demanding all day. At 1500, Asterion has issued a stronger statement. I will read it now. Asterion Extraction Group has engaged in good faith with representatives of the work stoppage. Unfortunately, unreasonable demands are delaying rescue access, destabilizing critical infrastructure, and threatening the welfare of Ceres residents. We call on all responsible employees to return to duty immediately. Continued refusal may result in contract review, housing review, and suspension of non-essential employment privileges. That is the statement. The phrase housing review is likely to receive attention. As we have said throughout the day, many Asterian workers live in company-managed housing. A housing review, depending on how it is applied, could mean eviction proceedings or relocation penalties. The Workers' Assembly is already calling the statement a threat. The Ceres Provisional Authority says housing access should not be used as leverage during an active emergency. Asterion has not clarified what housing review means. At 1522, the reaction outside Sector 12 is immediate. The crowd has grown again. Dock workers, medical staff, and pressure maintenance crews are now visible in the corridor feeds. A banner has been raised over the access gate. It reads, "Ceres breathes because workers hold the seal." That is not official signage. It appears to have been made from emergency tarp material. Asterian security remains back from the gate. No arrests reported. No violence reported. But the anger is very clear. At 1546, the leaked inspection memo has been confirmed by a second independent reviewer as consistent with Asterian safety documentation. That does not independently prove who wrote it, who received it, or what actions were taken afterward. But both reviewers agree the document appears authentic in format and technical language. We are now going to read selected portions because they relate directly to today's emergency. The memo is dated 9 days before the Hargreaves incident. It identifies stress irregularities in the east bore below level 9. It recommends temporary closure of the affected gallery pending reinforcement. It notes that Shelter 9C failed pressure integrity during emergency cycling. It also contains a production note. The production note reads, "Full closure prior to the February quota window would result in unacceptable delay to outbound mass commitments. Recommend restricted operations with additional monitoring until replacement components arrive." That is the line. Unacceptable delay to outbound mass commitments. If this memo is authentic, then someone inside Asterion was warned that a section of Hargreaves Deep Shaft had structural problems and that an emergency shelter had failed testing. And the recommendation was not full closure. It was restricted operations with additional monitoring. We have asked Asterion whether it disputes the contents of the memo. We have not received an answer. At 1603, Civic Chamber 2 has suspended mediation. The Workers' Assembly has walked out. Mara Venn has issued a statement. I will read it now. Asterion threatened our homes while our families waited for names. They offered a review without inspectors, rescue without witnesses, an amnesty only for obedience. We are done asking in closed rooms. Open level 9. Release the names. Test the shelters. Recognize the assembly. No air, no ore. That is the statement. The strike continues. At 1621, the Ceres Provisional Authority has declared a local industrial emergency. This does not mean civil emergency. It does not mean evacuation. It allows the authority to coordinate transportation, medical access, and critical infrastructure staffing during the strike. The authority says it is ordering Asterion not to alter worker housing status, medical access, or food credit access while emergency mediation is ongoing. Asterion has not yet responded. That order matters. It means the authority is attempting to prevent the company from punishing workers while the crisis is unresolved. It also suggests the authority believes Asterion's housing review threat may worsen the situation. At 1645, a new and potentially major update. The Belt Safety Commission inspection team has launched from Vesta. Estimated arrival, 11 hours. They will not arrive tonight unless routing changes. But their launch means the Commission believes access will eventually be granted, or that pressure to grant it will become unavoidable. The Workers' Assembly is celebrating the launch as a victory. Asterion says no external inspectors have been approved. The authority says approval is under discussion. That is where things stand. At 1708, we have confirmation that the strike has expanded to Vault 2 ice processing. Until now, Vault 2 was operating at emergency minimum, with commercial output paused and civilian support maintained. Workers there have now issued a formal solidarity stoppage against all Asterion commercial processing. They are still maintaining civilian oxygen, water, heat, and medical reserves. The statement from Vault 2 reads, "Civilian life support is not a bargaining chip. Asterion made it one. We will keep Ceres alive. We will not keep Asterion profitable while Hargreaves remains sealed." That is from Vault 2 workers. This is now a colony-wide industrial strike, though essential services continue. At 1739, Port Dawn Traffic Control reports that Asterion outbound cargo is effectively frozen. Other cargo continues under delay. No passenger evacuation routes are affected. No medical shipments are blocked. No civilian oxygen shipments are blocked. Asterion commercial cargo is frozen. That is the pressure point. The company can survive angry statements. It can survive bad press. It cannot survive a stopped supply chain for long. At 1804, we have a significant development from Earth. The Interplanetary Commerce Ministry has urged all parties on Ceres to restore lawful operations and protect commercial continuity. That statement does not mention the missing workers. It does not mention the leaked memo. It does not mention emergency shelter failures. It mentions commercial continuity. Reaction on local channels has been overwhelmingly negative. The Workers' Assembly responded with one sentence: "Tell Earth to come dig." That response is now being repeated across the belt relays. At 1825, the Ceres Provisional Authority has ordered Asterion to provide a complete personnel list for Hargreaves Deep Shaft within 1 hour. The authority says the list will be provided first to families, then to medical coordinators, and only later to the public. This is one of the workers' central demands. Asterion has not publicly said whether it will comply. At 1852, families have begun entering the notification center at Blue Concourse Medical Annex. We are not broadcasting images from inside. We are not reading names. Station policy is clear on this. Families first, public second. But we can report that the notification process has begun. Outside Sector 12, the crowd is quiet. No chanting now, just waiting. At 1916, Asterion has released an updated count. 49 personnel are now confirmed to have been present in or near the affected Hargreaves sublevels. That is 3 more than the previous official number. 33 are accounted for. 16 remain missing. Asterion uses the word missing in this statement for the first time. 16 missing. There are also 22 injured, according to the company, though injury severity has not been released. The Workers' Assembly says this updated count confirms that contractors and maintenance staff were initially excluded from the official numbers. Asterion says the discrepancy resulted from incomplete shift logs during the emergency. The authority says it is reviewing the logs. 16 missing. That is now the official number. At 1944, emergency mediation has resumed. This time, the authority says representatives from the Workers' Assembly will be joined by a neutral medical officer, a pressure systems engineer, and a family liaison. Asterion representatives are back in the room. The main terms under discussion appear to be immediate supervised entry below Level 9, recognition of the Ceres Workers' Assembly for emergency bargaining, no retaliation against striking workers, independent inspection of Hargreaves Deep Shaft, public testing of emergency shelters in Sector 12, compensation for families of the dead and missing, Asterion cargo movement after safety conditions are met. That is a lot to resolve, but the company has less leverage than it had this morning. At 2010, we have confirmation that the first rescue team is prepared to enter Hargreaves if talks produce an agreement. The team is staged at Lock 9. It includes Asterion rescue personnel, Ceres Authority emergency responders, and 2 pressure engineers selected by the Workers' Assembly. That mixed team appears to be the compromise. Independent Belt Safety Commission inspectors are still en route from Vesta and would inspect later. But this first team would enter now to search for survivors and assess immediate conditions. The Workers' Assembly says it will suspend the strike if the rescue team enters with witnesses and if the other terms are signed. Asterion has not confirmed. At 2038, the mood outside Sector 12 has changed again. The crowd has moved back from the gate to clear space for emergency crews. Workers are still present. Families are still present. Security is still present. But for the first time today, the corridor outside Sector 12 appears organized around entry, not confrontation. That does not mean an agreement is done. But it does mean everyone knows what the next step has to be. At 2103, we are receiving word that a draft agreement has been circulated inside Civic Chamber 2. The title, according to two sources familiar with the talks, is the Hargreaves Emergency Accord. Again, draft agreement, not signed. The draft reportedly includes temporary recognition of the Ceres Workers' Assembly, non-retaliation language, immediate rescue access, independent inspection access, public shelter testing, and a phased return to work after safety clearance. The unresolved issue appears to be liability language. That means Asterion is likely resisting any wording that admits fault. That is common in agreements like this. It is also bitterly difficult for families waiting for names. At 2131, Asterion has issued a brief statement. The company remains committed to the safe resolution of the current disruption and the protection of all personnel. Negotiations are ongoing. That is all. No denial, no accusation, no reference to unauthorized work stoppages, no housing review. The tone has changed. At 2156, the Workers' Assembly has asked the crowd outside Sector 12 to remain calm and keep the emergency lane clear. Maravin spoke briefly on the worker ban. Her statement was short. She said, "We're close. Do not give them chaos to point at. Hold the line." That phrase is now spreading through the crowd. Hold the line. Earlier today, it was no air, no ore. Then open the shaft. Now hold the line. At 2220, the Ceres Provisional Authority has announced that an agreement has been reached in principle. Not signed yet. Reached in principle. The authority says final language is being reviewed by all parties. If signed, rescue entry could begin within the hour. Habitat conservation protocols remain active but may be lifted after emergency staffing is confirmed. Port Dawn traffic remains delayed. Asterion cargo remains grounded. But the first real resolution of the day may now be near. At 2247, we have confirmation. The Hargreaves Emergency Accord has been signed. I will repeat that. The Hargreaves Emergency Accord has been signed. Representatives of Asterion Extraction Group, the Ceres Workers' Assembly, the Ceres Provisional Authority, and the Dock Handlers Cooperative have agreed to terms ending the active strike. The work stoppage is officially suspended pending the first rescue and inspection phase. Suspended, not abandoned. Here are the terms as released by the authority. Asterion will recognize the Ceres Workers' Assembly as the emergency representative of Hargreaves and Sector 12 Deep Shaft labor crews. No worker who participated in today's strike will be terminated, evicted, fined, denied medical access, or penalized through food or housing credits. A mixed rescue team will immediately enter Hargreaves Deep Shaft below Level 9. That team will include Asterion rescue personnel, Ceres Authority emergency responders, and worker-approved pressure engineers. The Belt Safety Commission inspection team en route from Vesta will be granted access upon arrival. All emergency shelters in Sector 12 will be tested publicly before commercial extraction resumes. The full Hargreaves inspection record will be turned over to the Ceres Provisional Authority. Families of the dead and missing will receive compensation under emergency casualty provisions. Commercial production will not resume in Hargreaves until the first safety clearance is complete. That is the agreement. The strike, as an active work stoppage, is ending. Emergency staffing is returning. Dock crews are reopening non-commercial lanes. Ice processing crews are restoring full civilian flow. Asterian cargo remains grounded until initial inspection is complete. The rescue team is now moving toward Level 9. At 23:04, we have confirmation from Lock 9. The lower pressure doors have opened. For the first time since the overnight incident, a rescue team has entered the sealed section below Hargreaves Level 9. The crowd outside Sector 12 is silent. Station observers say helmets are off, signs are lowered. People are standing shoulder to shoulder along the corridor walls, leaving the center lane open for emergency movement. No chanting now, no speeches, just waiting. At 23:18, habitat conservation protocols are being lifted in rings 3 through 6. Power levels are returning to normal. Recreational water access will remain suspended until morning, but heat and lighting are being restored. The authority says pressure grids remained stable throughout the strike. Civilian life support was not interrupted. That is important. Despite everything that happened today, the workers maintained emergency systems. The colony stayed alive. At 23:31, we have the first update from the rescue team. The east bore below Level 9 has suffered major structural failure. Debris fields are blocking 2 access routes. Pressure conditions are unstable but navigable in reinforced suits. Shelter 9C is damaged. The rescue team has not yet reached the deepest obstruction. No survivor contact has been confirmed. I know many families are listening. That is all we have right now. No survivor contact confirmed, no final casualty update. The rescue continues. At 23:49, the Ceres Workers' Assembly has formally instructed members to return to emergency and safety-cleared posts. Deep shaft extraction remains paused. Ore lifts remain offline for Hargreaves. Dock workers will resume non-Asterian and civilian cargo flow. Asterian commercial cargo remains subject to inspection clearance. This means Ceres is not going back to normal tonight, but the active strike is ending. The emergency is moving from labor crisis to rescue operation. At 007 Ceres standard, we are now into the next cycle. For nearly 19 hours, Ceres has been held in place by a question. What happened below Hargreaves Level 9? We still do not have the full answer, but we know more than we did when this broadcast began. We know 16 workers are officially missing. We know the company's first statements did not include the full personnel count. We know a safety memo warned of structural fatigue and emergency shelter problems before the collapse. We know workers across Ceres stopped commercial extraction but kept civilian life support running. We know Mars and Luna labor groups applied pressure from beyond Ceres. We know Asterian threatened contract and housing review, then withdrew that posture under public pressure. We know the Workers' Assembly has been recognized, at least under emergency terms. We know rescue crews are now below Level 9. And we know the strike has ended because the people who make Ceres work forced the system to look down into the shaft it wanted to seal. That is where we are. At 022, we have another rescue update. The team has reached the outer frame of Shelter 9C. The shelter door is partially obstructed. External pressure readings are inconsistent. Internal telemetry is weak. No voice contact. No confirmed survivors. The rescue team is attempting manual access. We will stay with the channel. At 0037, Asterian's Chief Operations Director Halden Cross has issued a recorded statement. The statement expresses sympathy to families and thanks emergency responders. It says Asterian will cooperate with the Hargreaves Emergency Accord. It says the company remains committed to safe, lawful, and productive operations on Ceres. It does not mention the leaked memo. It does not mention the housing review threat. It does not apologize. The Workers' Assembly has responded with no comment. Sometimes no comment says enough. At 051, we have an update from Blue Concourse Medical Annex. Family notifications for the 16 missing have been completed. Names are expected to be released publicly after next of kin give approval. We will not read names tonight unless the families request it. The injured count remains 22. 4 are listed in critical condition. 9 are serious. The rest are stable or under observation. Medical staff say blood reserves are sufficient. Oxygen reserves are sufficient. Volunteer assistance is not needed at this time, but residents are being asked to keep transit routes clear. At 1:06, the rescue team has entered Shelter 9C. I will repeat that. The rescue team has entered Shelter 9C. The shelter interior is damaged. Emergency lighting failed. Pressure integrity was compromised but not fully lost. There is no confirmed survivor inside the main shelter compartment. The team is checking secondary compartments and adjacent service crawl spaces. Again, no confirmed survivor in the main compartment. The search continues. At 1:22, we are receiving an unusual update from the rescue channel. A weak suit beacon has been detected beyond the Shelter 9C service wall. The signal is intermittent. The rescue team is attempting to triangulate. We do not know whose beacon it is. We do not know whether the person attached to that beacon is alive. A suit beacon can continue transmitting after a worker is incapacitated, but the signal is active. After nearly a day of silence below level 9, there is a signal. The rescue team is moving toward it. At 1:36, the Ceres Provisional Authority has confirmed the beacon detection. The signal is coming from a maintenance crawl space behind the east bore support wall. That area is not part of the main shelter. It may have remained partially shielded from the collapse. The rescue team believes there is a narrow access path through a utility conduit, but movement will be slow. They are asking everyone in Sector 12 to remain quiet near emergency channels and avoid transmitting on unauthorized bands. If you are in Sector 12, stay off the rescue frequencies. Let the team work. At 1:52, the Workers' Assembly has released a final statement for the night. I will read it in full. Tonight, Ceres proved that workers are not replaceable parts in machines they built. We mourn the dead. We wait for the missing. We thank every crew that kept air in the walls while the company tried to make safety sound like disobedience. The strike is suspended under the Hargreaves Emergency Accord. We return to emergency posts with eyes open. No air, no ore was not a threat. It was a promise that life comes before production. That is the Workers' Assembly statement. At 2:09, the rescue team has reached the utility conduit. They are cutting through now. No voice contact. Beacon remains weak but active. This may take time. We may not have a final answer before this broadcast ends. But we will remain on emergency relay for as long as we can. At 2:25, a correction. The rescue team reports a second faint signal near the first beacon. This may be an echo, it may be equipment reflection, it may be a second suit. They do not know yet. The team is proceeding carefully because the crawl space may be unstable. I know the temptation is to turn every signal into hope. Let's be careful with hope. Hope is not certainty, but it is not nothing either. At 2:41, the Ceres Provisional Authority has announced that the Hargreaves Emergency Accord will be publicly archived by 900. Residents will be able to read the full terms through the public record channel. The authority also says an independent inquiry will begin once the Belt Safety Commission team arrives. Asterion has agreed to preserve all internal communications related to Hargreaves safety reviews, production scheduling, emergency shelter maintenance, and third shift operations. Preservation of records is not accountability by itself, but it is how accountability begins. At 2:58, rescue crews have made voice contact. I need to say that again carefully. Rescue crews have made voice contact with someone beyond the Shelter 9C service wall. The signal is weak. The person has not yet been identified publicly. Condition unknown. But voice contact has been made. There is at least one survivor below level 9. I will pause there for a moment. There is at least one survivor below level 9. After all the statements today, all the delays, all the arguments over access and liability and inspection language, someone was still down there. Someone was still waiting. At 3:12, the rescue team reports that the survivor is conscious, but trapped. They are delivering oxygen through a narrow line. Extraction will take time. The survivor's identity is being withheld until family notification. There may be others in the same crawl space. The team cannot confirm yet. The emergency is not over, but this is the first confirmed survivor contact since the collapse. At 3:30, we are approaching the end of this emergency broadcast block. Relay 9 will remain on standby through the night. Updates will continue at the top and bottom of every hour or immediately if there is a major rescue development. Before we close this segment, let's return to where the morning began. At 5:38 yesterday, this was a minor item in a routine traffic report. A localized disturbance, a restricted corridor, a possible delay. By sunrise, miners were standing outside Sector 12 demanding names. By midday, the docks were slowing. By afternoon, a leaked memo had shown that Hargreaves may have been dangerous before anyone went underground. By evening, a Styrian cargo was frozen across Port Dawn. By night, the Hargreaves Emergency Accord was signed. And now, below Level 9, rescue crews have reached a living voice in the dark. The strike has ended. The rescue has not. The agreement signed tonight does not bring back the dead. It does not erase the hours families spent waiting outside sealed doors. It does not answer every question about what Asterion knew, what it delayed, or why the first official numbers were wrong. But it changes something. Before today, Ceres was treated like infrastructure. A place cargo passed through, a rock with ice under it, a schedule on somebody else's screen. Tonight, Ceres answered back. Not with war, not with sabotage, not by cutting air to civilians, but by stopping the work that everyone else pretended was automatic. The miners stopped. The dock crews stopped. The ice processors stopped. The pressure techs held the life system steady. The medical staff kept doors open. The families refused to leave. And the system that depends on Ceres had to listen. That is the story tonight. Not a clean victory, not a simple ending. A strike suspended, a shaft opened, a survivor found, 16 families still waiting for final word, and a colony that will wake up tomorrow knowing exactly how much power lives in the hands of the people who keep the air moving. This is John Vale, Intersystem Public Radio, Relay 9, broadcasting from Port Dawn on Ceres. To the rescue crews below Hargreaves, steady hands. To the families waiting at Blue Concourse, we are with you. To the workers returning to emergency posts, Ceres heard you. To everyone listening across Ceres, Mars, Luna, and the Belt, the strike has ended. The rescue has not. Stay on this channel for emergency updates. Good night, Ceres.